We'll go a little out of order on the topic, but it's just really what's top of mind for me, and continues to become so apparent as I watch the world and how people buy things. Not only how they buy them from me, how they buy them from the 20 companies that we work with, how people that I know buy things, how I watch things in Revenue Collective or LinkedIn or Rev Genius or wherever else the Slack channels and word of mouth channels are going on. I posted about it yesterday. Got quite a bit of traction, which is the thesis is like word of mouth is the most powerful marketing channel. I just want to clarify my thoughts in here because a lot of people in the comments thought about that as a word of mouth referral. And they're like, yeah, you can easily attribute the word of mouth referral. Just ask. And if you think about it at a much higher, deeper level, there are so many interactions that are not a transactional, hey, you should buy this, and then you go and then you buy it. There are so many touch points and interactions, and I see them all the time that will never be measured by an attribution software. Someone that listens to the podcast on Apple, someone that recommends the podcast on Apple to somebody else. I'm not going to go and hunt down someone for that manual attribution. We got another one today that came in, a new one that I hadn't heard of, where somebody that I know says, interesting for you to know, you just showed up in our Slack channel. And like, where's the measurement on that? And so like, I want people to think about, and then if we go a little bit higher in the post, it was, how do you do marketing to allow those moments to happen at a greater rate? How do you do good marketing so that more people talk about you and give you more opportunities for someone to say, yes, I use that. It works. I got this result. You should try it, blah, 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 blah. How do you create those moments to happen? You need people's attention. And so everyone's spending all their money trying to get leads in LinkedIn ebooks that don't close, as opposed to taking all that money, producing good content, distributing it effectively, and allowing people to talk about you in a way that's good. The second pushback that I got, and I'll just keep ranting on this, is that, oh, you can never build a brand until someone uses the product and is successful. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, think about all the brands that you know about, that you have an affinity to, that you've never used their product. A lot of people do that. And so you're just like really pigeonholing yourself if you think about the idea that until they use the product, I don't have an opportunity to build a brand. The use of the product is typically the outcome of good branding. That's how you get someone in. And then you obviously have to deliver. And then the flywheel, HubSpot's famous flywheel, starts to happen. Get people in, deliver a good product, and then create more opportunities for them or prospects or the market to talk about you, and let the cycle continue. And when you do transactional marketing, you usually don't give yourself those opportunities to happen. You're running an ebook download. Nobody's sharing that. Nobody's sharing that with someone. Most people don't even read it. They're not going to comment on the post and tag 6 people that they know. And so I'll get that started. Maybe there were some questions that came in. Would love to just kind of stay on this topic for a while, because I just think it's super important for marketers to recognize that when I show up in the Slack channel, when 20 people listen to the podcast and then tell the CMO, and then they come inbound, where does it get attributed in Salesforce and HubSpot or Marketo or whatever you use? Where does it get attributed? Organic search, SSL lock, no keywords, direct traffic. They type in and go. And so when you look at that, I just analyzed the company this morning. Like, we just finished up an analysis, $80 million ARR SaaS company. 70% of their revenue comes through organic search demo requests, 70% of their marketing sourced revenue. And they spend all of their money on LinkedIn and AdWords that don't drive results. And then when you look at that point, you think that the SEO is the thing that's driving that. All the other things that drive people through Google's toll booth, people pass through Google in order to convert. All the other things are what made them go through that path. If you don't understand that reality, it can drive you to do a lot of the wrong things in marketing. I'll pause there.
Elaine has a related question, I feel like. Do you collect testimonials and reviews? And if so, how do you collect them and use them? So kind of trying to capture kind of like what you were just talking about. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Yeah. So So the short answer is looking at what do your customers do? What do your customers need along their journey? If you're buying a SaaS product, people are going to go to G2 and Capterra. You need to be well reviewed there, right? For my type of business, I don't consider it as important. Are we trying to get G2 reviews? Sure. Do I spend a ton of time worrying about how another company has 100 and we have 3? No, I don't. And so I think it really depends on how buyers are going to buy that certain thing. They don't hurt. Having a logo wall or testimonials or direct API to Trust Radius to pull in the reviews, like all those different things are certainly helpful. Social proof is important. And so that's a way for a company to highlight some of those things. What I'm talking about is all the things that happen in the shadows. What people say about you when they're not getting a $50 gift card to put it on Capterra. What do they really say about you to someone that the person that is asking them really trusts their recommendation? Those are the things that matter. So short answer, of course they're important, but also think about all the other things that don't happen through one of those sites.
One small tactic there too, whenever I'm interacting with a customer, if you're really doing a great job, very often organically, they might just say, or maybe you ask for feedback and they're like, things are really good. I appreciate, if you ever need me to be a reference, that's when you can be like, oh, great. How would you feel about writing a review on G2? So look for those moments when they're already expressing that they're happy with you, that they're seeing the results that they wanted. Very often they'll ask. So I try to be a little bit opportunistic, so it happens a little organically. And whenever you ask in a context like that, they're like, of course, sure. And then they'll hop on and do it. So a small tactic that can work, but the point is you have to make sure they're in a really good place and have them express that. And then that's when it's most well received in my experience.
Any other follow-ups on this one?
We have some other questions, but it kind of veers to some other topics. Should we jump?
Yeah, let's veer to a different one. We'll just kind of jump in, come back. We'll just let it roll. So you lead the way on this one.
So, my good friend Ashley, she brought up agile waterfalls, ? Maybe we need to bring her on to provide a little more context to her question, and we can dig into that topic.
Sure.
What's up, Ashley?
I saw the strangest subject line today. Hold up. I'm looking for it.
Tell us.
Okay. It was a marketing dive. Manager's Guide to Mixing Agile and Waterfall. What the heck? How does that work? Is that when you're trying to do Agile, but you end up doing Waterfall?
Can you say more? Is there more in that email?
There's a guide that they're linking to. You're suffering through the pain of mixing work methodologies. You can enjoy the benefits of this fantastic duo. Get the guide.
I
don't know.
It's like a lot of buzzwords to me.
Exactly.
I mean, you run whatever method. Yeah, I mean, whatever methodology is appropriate. Like I didn't read a textbook and was like, okay, we're going to follow agile here. Like I don't, maybe in product or different places like that. Sure. But like, we just do it. I don't know what to say.
It was kind of a comical, like, what the heck is this?
Yeah. I thought you were going to mention the demand waterfall.
I can.
I mean, I talk about it quite a bit, and so the only I mean, I'll just kind of go in this direction for a minute. Is that if anyone can go on Google and see the chart of the demand waterfall, there you cannot argue with the conceptual diagram that's in there. You have this many people get engaged, blah 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 blah. Like you can't argue with the diagram. The problem is that it's poorly implemented at like every company. The problem is that all of their revenue is coming from over here, and they spend all their money and time focusing on the ones where there's no revenue coming from, just to create a ton of activity of the idea that it's happening. And if you just stripped all that stuff away and focused over here, I just feel like you would get a lot better results. And so I'd be happy maybe on a future episode to go a little bit deeper and pull that up. I know Gaetano and I did it way back in the day, but probably some people on here didn't get to see it. So, but if you look at like, I would say like pretty much any software company, they all operate under that model, under the assumption that 1% of their leads will close, not knowing that it's actually 9% over here and 0.1% over here. And they just mix the two without understanding the core differences. And so I just wanted to insert my point of view on that one. I think people should really think about it. So just see people chase MQLs. All right.
We can switch gears.
Let's do it.
How about like a very sort of straightforward system question? We got this emailed in earlier. I don't know if they're on, but HubSpot versus Salesforce. Which would you recommend and for what purpose?
So this isn't really like an either or conversation. I think for a lot of software companies, HubSpot integrated as marketing automation with Salesforce is the appropriate setup. I think that both of them put together, most companies will do Salesforce Marketo in that instance, which I've talked about quite a bit, but like the overhead of Marketo, I just don't feel is worth it anymore. Like I feel like, and even like you can't even do last touch attribution in Marketo without like a consultant and a $50,000 project, and HubSpot does it out of the box. And so I do believe that most companies will move to HubSpot integrated with Salesforce. And then the question becomes like, if you're looking at your business, do you foresee in the future that you will have a very complex like business? If yes, with like in person, field support, field sales, implementation, partner network. Like if you can think about the complexities, e-com, omni-channel e-com, different things like that, then Salesforce probably makes sense. Like there's a lot of companies where HubSpot literally just doesn't have the horsepower right now to support that type of business. And so in that case, use Salesforce. Salesforce does not have marketing automation built in. They try and bolt on Pardot, which is it's really tough to watch. And then your decision becomes, do you want to use Marketo or HubSpot? Marketo, pay a ton of money, have a ton of consultants because it's complex to use, run into a ton of problems in customization and different things like that, or HubSpot. And so it goes back to my core thesis of why I think that HubSpot is the right choice for a lot of companies, is because companies waste so much time and money on technology that they don't actually do any marketing. And so I saw there was a stat that 24% of variable marketing budgets is spent on technology. Like, are you kidding me? I wish I knew what the stat was for content. It's not 24%. I know that. And so like, how? Like, just those are some of the questions that I think about. Like, how does 25, like a quarter of your budget, get spent on that? That's something that I really wonder. And it's just like, people think that the next new tool is going to get it done. And I posted about this. I'll kind of go deeper and reiterate on it. Like, you don't need very much tech to get it done. Like we use almost nothing. We use almost no like tech stack, no ABM, blah, blah, blah. Even for our customers, like I don't need a lot of those things in order to get the job done and do it really well. And so I think in a lot of cases it becomes a distraction. Companies spend whatever. Drift just recently like drastically increased their prices and stopped publishing pricing. And so whatever it is now, let's just pretend, I'm making it up just to be clear. Like just pretend it's $4,000 a month for this chatbot. And you pay $4,000 a month and you spend all this time writing complex different flows. And then you take all the forms down, and what have you done? You've literally just rerouted the existing leads from a form to a chatbot and got the same amount of leads. I analyze enough SaaS companies to know that like the actual revenue created does not come through the bots. Maybe you get more MQLs. Maybe people talk about like, I was like, how does the best flow of your chatbot work? It must be to book a demo. And they were like, no, actually, when we present them with content assets, that's when we get the most leads. And I was like, okay. And then how many of those people actually become customers are some of the things that I think about. How do we get there? Kind of got off track, but
it was a HubSpot Salesforce question.
I really think it's dependent on the business. I honestly don't think you can go wrong there. HubSpot full stack for more simple, for lack of a better term, simple businesses, and HubSpot Salesforce, or if you must, Marketo Salesforce.
Yeah, I agree. We have a fun question from Jonathan. A little vague, but I feel like you could get into this one. How do you rock LTV?
All right, Jonathan. we're gonna need more than that. So come on down.
Oh yeah, there's a bucket of worms.
Wait, Jonathan, how are you feeling this week? You
Much
good?
better, thank you.
Good.
Great.
Sorry, please continue.
No,
Great.
I appreciate you caring. That it actually it came up. Somebody had articulated well in a post the evolution of technology from pay up front to pay as you go, and then they laid out the dollar today versus $1 down the road, and then asked the question, why are we not spending any money on CS and focusing on the clients? And I said, oh, you want an LTV strategy? And that led to another handful of comments. And LTV has been around for a long time. It's been something that I've not seen really tied into directly the strategies of business, especially early stage SaaS businesses, and how they're measuring success or looking to grow with a capital G. And I was just curious, from your perspective, with demand gen and now bringing in a CS rock star, I think this is the time to say either how do we leverage LTV? How are you leveraging it in how you go to business, or is it still just a thing for consultants to talk about on the side and a dream for how we should be measuring clients and doing business?
Yeah, I think it's a super interesting question, and there's a ton of different directions that we can go here. Mm-hmm. Just for everyone listening to define it, LTV is essentially customer lifetime value. Over the lifetime of the customer, how much money do they pay you? Which essentially breaks down to how much money do they pay you every month? Is that money static or is it growing? And how many months do they stay? And a lot of people will project out a projected LTV based on a best case assumption of how long someone will stay. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And so, like I said, the number one impactor on this is the price that they come in at and how long they stay. And so the number one lever that you can pull here is reduced churn, right? And so the difference between 95% monthly retention rate and 90 impacts LTV by 10 years. And so that's one. The next one is the customer growing with you, or are they staying the same? And that's really dependent on the business strategy overall. Most companies in SaaS will at this point use a value metric, so that the pricing scales as the customer gets more value. It's very well published. So that's a good pricing strategy by Profitwell. I'll shout them out here because I think they're really smart. And overall, like I always look at this by CAC payback, not LTV. That's just from my own metric and strategy. For business, obviously, it matters for demand, the way that I look at it, because my control over my clients' retention rate based on their product, their CS team, whether they're bringing in the right customers, all those different things, my impact is almost negligible. And so I look at CAC payback and then assume that they have greater than 5-year retention. But Megan, you probably have a lot of thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered it. A lot of it is the basics, like, do you have your ICP defined? Are you selling to the right customer? Do you actually have a valuable product or service that people can use for more than 1 year? It's getting the basics really, really good. And then ensuring that you have great onboarding. And then I think the key is, I think one of the most difficult challenges for long-term retention with respect to customer success is the fact that your customer's business context changes over time. And the risk that you run is, as your customer's business context evolves, do they outgrow your product or service? Does something change dramatically where it doesn't make sense? And so I think the best long-term relationships I've had a close enough relationship with the customer to be able to understand what those changes are in advance and make the determination if we're able to sort of grow and evolve with them, or not. So those are just a couple of additional things that I would add, but everything that Chris covered makes sense.
And then another thing, just like in demand, how I look at what are the funnel metrics and win rates by conversion point and source. And that's segmentation in demand, but if you use the segmentation, then you would probably find huge disparities based on some type of segmentation variable about how long customers stay, right? Do the people that have 7 integrations stay longer than the people that with 0? Probably. And so those are some of I know people use those in like a health score. But I know companies that get a different valuation on certain revenue that has blah, blah, blah integrations versus this. They get 12x instead of 7x. Right? Because the revenue's worth more, because they know that they're going to stay longer. And so as you start peeling back the layers, there's a lot of intricacies to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Good question, Jonathan. Maybe we'll see you back here later tonight for another question.
I'm glad you're feeling good. Ooh, we got a question that might be for me, but I got a +1.
Cool.
Completely different direction, but how do you deal with imposter syndrome? Particularly for Megan, if you experience it. I just started a new job in a very male-dominated team in a male-dominated industry, and I've had a few days struggling with it. Congratulations on the new job, Katie. That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, I totally deal with imposter syndrome. And, even joining Chris's team as a CS professional and joining, a demand gen marketing agency, I have my moments every day where I'm like, I'm not really sure about that thing or that, and I have to lean into what I'm good at. And so I think the trick is to accept the fact that, you can never eliminate self-doubt. You just have to learn to manage it. And you have to know that it will come in waves, let it pass through you, process it. Some of the things that I do actually is like I save notes or emails that I get from people that are validating. So if I'm having a particular bad day, I can remind myself of that. You have your trusted, source of people that you can share when you're feeling low, and they can give you that reassurance. But what I will say is, like, when you're actually at work and in the moment and feeling that, my recommendation is try to power through it. You deserve to be there. You deserve to have a seat at the table. Those other guys don't know more than you. And so I would just, be proud, be confident in yourself, and know that every single person experiences some level of this. They're just not talking about it. They're not admitting it. But every single person goes through this. It's completely natural. And, I know I don't know you, but I feel like you're probably a rock star. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think this is politically correct to say, but I'm not positive, is that like in April, my company was 4 men and 0 women. And now we are 7 men and 4 women, and the company's way better now. And like the four women that work here are awesome. Like, and so I think the idea that in a male dominated industry might actually give you an advantage, because like you can go and get stuff done, get a lot of respect quickly. Like, so if you shift your perspective on it, I think that there's a huge opportunity there.
Definitely.
But the take home is like, women are awesome. They're like, at least in my observations of my own company, which is a super small sample size, way more organized, generally more optimistic, like funnier. I don't know what else. Like super smart. Like it's just they're great.
Yeah, but the other thing too is like, give yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up over it. The other thing that I do when I get in my own head is I tell myself, if my best friend came to me with this problem, what would I tell my best friend? And usually the answer is, you're crazy. That's not true. You're amazing. And you are the person that you spend your whole life with. So why aren't you treating yourself like you would treat your best friend? So that's another little trick in the moment, especially if you're overwhelmed at work or something like that. Another very tactical tip too is when I've been in that situation before, I've tried to figure out who the right person is for me to befriend to help me integrate better into the group and give me the perspective that I might be missing if they're more in tune, to help me integrate better. So you might kind of keep an eye out for who your ally might be, and they can often help through the process as well.
You're going to crush it, Katie.
For that. All right. Let's see.
There's nothing top. We can go back to the agenda and then come back and let it flow a little bit.
Sandra, word of mouth is a huge deal source for us. Have you seen effective referral programs for non-SaaS companies?
I've seen a lot of failed referral programs in SaaS companies.
Maybe what makes them fail? That might point to what might work.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, if you I've watched companies incentivize with like a $500 gift card for a referral that closes, and they send you 500 people and none of them close because they're doing it for the gift card, not because they want other people to use the product. And so I know that there are certainly ways where that has gone different. So me, it's just like incentivizing referrals or trying to manufacture referrals is not something that I've seen work very well. I'm positive that it can, but it's not something that I spend a lot of time on, to be honest.
Oh my gosh. Uma started her new job.
I know, we were celebrating this morning.
Congratulations, Uma. Can we bring her on and can we do a Demand Gen Live? Congratulations. It's happening in the chat.
Okay, we'll do the congrats.
Where is she?
I'm right here.
Uma, congratulations.
I know.
Tell us your role in the company and how was your first day?
So today was my second day. I'm already churning out emails and copy and whatnot. Really great role for me. I joined as Director Demand Gen. My previous role was Senior Manager, so I was able to
moving on up.
Upgrade in this time. But it was 5 months of grueling, brutal job market. So Katie, congratulations. If you land a job at this point, you are a rock star.
That's amazing. What company is it, Uma?
It's Seven Lakes Technologies.
Very nice. Oh, well, the chat is blowing up.
Yep,
you're the most popular person.
Yeah, and Katie, I hear you. I got the role. I really busted my ass for it. And I've been asking, I was like, oh my God, do I really deserve it? But you deserve it. You're in the room because they saw something in you compared to hundreds of other people and they picked you. So you deserve it. You need to be there.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Come on.
For that.
Thank you.
Chris,
Chris and I did a special shout out because I do really think I got so much support and questions and answers out of this call. I have people pinging me, is like, thank you for the referral. There are a lot of people who are going to join in because I genuinely believed this really helped me.
We are thrilled to help, Uma. Celebration was so worth it.
Thank you.
Maybe you should write us a review on G2. No, just kidding. It was a joke.
Cool. Chris, do I get a special hat or a t-shirt? Refined Labs?
Oh, we're working on the swag.
We are working on it. So we'll get back to you with maybe by Christmas.
Here have talked to me separately. Thank you guys. Thank you all of you.
Thank you
for that. Chris, I know did you have something from the original agenda to pop back to for a minute?
The promised agenda. We'll get the get the topics flowing again.
Perfect.
Which direction do I want to take this? So I got one in from a director of sales, an email, and it said, I know that everyone talks about how marketing can work better with sales, but what I really want to know is how can I work better with my CMO? Which is a really great question. Because if you think about alignment issues, it typically gets blamed on marketing sending bad leads. I believe actually that it happens above the CMO level. I believe it happens higher than that when the metrics come down and then it forces people to do the wrong things. But what can sales do that's tactical? And so the first one that I would recommend is have empathy and understanding that while your overall goals are hopefully the same, you do different things in order to get to that goal, and the way that you see the world is very different, and the time frames that you are interested in are different. And so I think that's really the first one. I see when salespeople fumble on this one, they think that their marketing team is going to help them with 3 days left in the quarter when they have a 90-day sales cycle. And it's just like, that's when you do that, all you do is just send someone off of the track that they were on to go and do a bunch of things in order to make you feel like they're doing something. And then you just wasted a bunch of time and money. And so first one, empathy and understanding about the core differences between what marketing and sales do and how they get to that goal. The next one is, and let's just pretend that you're at the executive level at this point, is you need to align on metrics that matter. And so I literally go into companies and I do this analysis where I show them that I get that you're spending $500,000 a year on LinkedIn ads for content downloads, and you're getting all, and the sales leader loves it because they have all these leads. But if you actually looked at that bucket, you would realize that it's a complete waste of time and money, both not only from your marketing dollars and your marketing team's time, but for all of the sales resources you have chasing all those people down. And so to segment where the revenue is coming from and set goals that make sense. And so with the main one on this is that the volume game, when you set a lead target that is so high and unrealistic, factoring in for the terrible conversion rates that you expect because you know that they're bad, it forces your marketing team to do a bunch of the wrong things and use all of their resources and energy to get there. And therefore they can't do anything else. I take companies through this journey from, 3,000 MQLs a month to 200 demo requests a month. We do not charge enough for it because it is hard to get the company to make that change. Regardless, during the process, their SQOs stay the same. In 6 months, their SQOs are double or whatever it is. And they still think that they're missing out on all the leads that never move anywhere. And so for the sales leader right there is help your marketing team align on something deeper than MQLs. It should be, for a 45-day plus sales cycle, it should be SQOs minimum as the leading metric. You can go demo request SQO, and then when you get farther out, you can start looking at like revenue, customer acquisition costs, things like that. But the two that I look at in a 6-month window of starting are number of demo requests, number of SQOs, and cost per SQO. I think those are the right metrics to align on initially. And so the metrics, and then you allow your marketing team to do the things that they think are the best in order to get to the SQO number. And so if you need 20 SQOs a month and they only need to get 30 demo requests in order to get to the 20 SQOs, then you don't need 7,000 leads because you already agreed on what metric is important. What do I got here? The next one, however you want to say it, open lines of communication, feedback, different things like that. I encourage marketers to call leads before they pass a new wave of a new execution of leads to sales, our new blah, blah, blah ebook through Google Ads. Call 5 of them and then decide whether or not you should keep spending all the money on that. But in the absence of marketers doing that, because I don't think many do or will, even based on that advice, is to get feedback directly ideally to hold the sales leader accountable for getting that feedback back to you. That feedback's going to happen in two places. You need to have the qualitative. You can, like, the gongs can get you there, but it would probably be easier just to ask the person, was it good or not? We just sent you 5. Was it good? And, you can go and listen through the calls if you want, but like there's that. And then just having Salesforce updated in real time so you can make good decisions. So the feedback is really important. Hey, Steve, we just tried this new, we're trying this new audience on this new channel. Saw that we got, 7 demo requests this morning. Based on our SLA, you should have already called them by now. What was the result? Could you go and talk to your people about, is this good? Because we have a bunch of budget and we can open the, there's scalability here. We can open the floodgates, but I don't want to do that if your people don't want to talk to them. Give me some like real detailed feedback. Are they in the ICP? Are they the right industry? Like, marketers should already know that stuff, right? You should be aligned on those things before you start running the ads, but still. So metrics. And then what else do I have? And then the last one, which I think is, might get a little bit of hate or something, but I think the last one is participation. Like, having your sales reps start to do things that you might consider marketing. Like, why isn't your top rep, why don't they have a podcast with your customers? Why aren't they the most followed person in your industry? And they could be. They literally talk to these people every day. They have so many, your salespeople have so many insights. If they elevated away from just the tactical, how do I close this deal? How do I do 20 demos in a day? And started to really deeply understand people, they have a gold mine of information that's happening in real time. Like, I think that is one of the core reasons why my content is so good, because I have these conversations with a ton of different businesses. I work on other ones. I analyze Salesforce. I really have a pulse of what's happening right now. And all of your salespeople do too. And so how do you get them to participate? I think is a really interesting one. How do you foster alignment? Help people, like, have your reps understand how hard it is to produce social content a couple times a week, and how many leads do you get from it? But it ultimately comes, I think it really comes back to 2 core things: the metrics, and then having just a deep empathy for the difference between marketing and sales, which I honestly just don't see a lot of. I don't see too many sales leaders have.
I think that's good. And I also, it's so easy for them to lead sales and marketing leaders to blame each other, and just for them to understand, like, if we actually join forces and work together, we could have such a greater influence with the rest of the leadership team, the rest of the executive team. I was at a company where there was sort of tension between them. And then once they were underneath me, I had my marketing lead and sales lead start to work together. And it's just recognizing that actually, if you team up and you try to tackle the problem as a team versus adversaries, that you can get so much more done. It's simple, but I don't know why more people don't think that way.
And then lastly is like, and this is not under the director of sales control, but like, companies need to start setting goals that are realistic. Like, everyone, for the people listening later, like, everyone on the Zoom is raising their hands. It's celebrating right now. We need to set goals that are realistic. How, as a revenue leader, a CMO or a CRO or a head of sales, can you, like, triple ASP, shorten sales cycles, grow the company by 50% and get fired? Like, how does that happen? Because the company's goal was they were supposed to grow at 300% or whatever. And that, like, there's a real problem there. And when the goals are so unrealistic, you have to do a ton of things that are not buyer-centric in order to attempt to get there when you have no shot. I just think I don't know how to, I really don't know how to communicate that clearly, but like, whether it's your MQL target or your revenue target, or how that gets broken up by different channels and we get stuck arguing over attribution, like, the goals drive everything. couldn't encourage people more to Series A, maybe raise a little less money or wait a little longer and try and do things a little bit of a different way.
I know we've ranted on growth at all costs before, so we can save that.
Cool.
Our good friend Bob has a very tactical demand gen question, like he always does.
Love the tactics.
I know. Why don't we bring him on and he can share it? I think it's a good one.
Megan, how you guys doing today?
Hey Bob.
Hey
good.
Bob, looks nice over there.
Yeah, Southern California, not too bad. In way over my head, as you know, so as the director of sales.
You're getting there.
But the good news is I don't actually have any marketing team to fight with, so I am the marketing team as well.
Yeah.
So here's the situation. 5 weeks into doing paid social.
Yep.
Tremendous inbound to our page, like let's say 6,000 versus in the past we were averaging maybe 1,000 a month of visitors, but they were mostly customers, patients.
Sure.
So 6,000 to the targeted people on Facebook. Out of that, maybe 20 contact requests, which resulted in, let's say, 6 actual meetings. ACV, probably around 50,000. As of right now, the sales process is still totally undefined. The ICP is even still loosely defined, and our sales, everything's undefined at this point. So my question is, we're spending 1,000 a week on paid social. A deal could go for maybe 50 to 100,000 on the initial contract and then 50,000 annual. So the question, this is telehealth, telemedicine. So the question is, how many demo requests over what time period? I'm 5 weeks in. Where would you say something isn't working right in terms of either the conversion, the demo requests, or the ad spend? At what point do I reevaluate the ad spend? If like one deal pays for a year's worth of the ad spend. So like, what would be your benchmark for success? And at what time point do I have to start pulling out what hair I have left?
Yeah, this is great. Do you all do any outbound right now?
Just hired an SDR, but really kind of a strategic person. So the answer is we're going to do a little bit, but not really. This product is kind of controversial to our ICP. Teleoptometry, we're doing it in office. Eye doctors are kind of very resistant to it, but we're looking for such a small percentage of the market share this year. Like if my goal next year is 100 new accounts, 1/4% of the available market, like I'm dealing with early innovators. So it's okay if 99% of them are offended at what we're doing. That's kind of what I'm up against. People are not saying positive things behind closed doors. Let's put it that way. On the social forums, I'm like deleting comments on my ads. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah. So first off, I think we need to shout you out for somebody that has not done this and just listened to the formula and gone and can literally talk at with what you just communicated to me is amazing. Like you deserve a shout out for the work that you're doing right now. Anyone could literally learn this stuff. And then the key is that you actually have to go do it. Because when you do it, just like Bob did, you actually learn it, right? We can talk about it all day and sit on the Zooms, but until you go out and do it yourself, you're not going to have the understanding that's needed. So first off, shout out to you, Bob. I thought that was great. There's a couple ways that I would look at this. The first in my view, one of the easiest ways, which is not your situation, but I just want to tell people about it, is to benchmark it against outbound. Like nobody does this. And so we'll go into a company and they have whatever, blah, blah, blah amount of SDRs going outbound, and you can calculate how much does it cost us to get a meeting? How much does it cost us to get an SQO? How much does it cost us to get a customer on that channel? And then you have a benchmark. And then you should know, okay, like we should be doing better than that is basically how I look at it. And then the question is how much better? In lieu of that data, which would be, you'll have it eventually. A lot of companies can do that. When we run into it, it's like, okay, so outbound, you guys are paying, like I'll have conversations with companies that I know that they're paying $8,000 after an analysis, $8,000 per SQO outbound. And then they want to spend $2,000 a month in ads. And I'm like, it's going to take you 4 months to get an SQO if we're as good as your outbound channel. Like, what do you expect here? And that comes back to unrealistic expectations. So in lieu of that, you said, let's just pretend over the past 4 weeks, You had 6K web traffic, 20K contact requests, 6 meetings. You spent $4,000. You got 6 meetings that were sat.
Correct.
So whatever that is, 750. I can't do the math exactly, but like $750 a meeting. And then like what? Just go through the process. Out of the meetings, let's say 50% convert to SQO. So you got 3 SQOs, and then let's say you win 20% of those. So you might win 1 deal, but as you fill the funnel, you can see how that can work. So the math works. Like if you're selling a 50K ACV product and your funnel metrics like make sense, then you should be able to spend somewhere between $750 to $1,500 a meeting.
Okay. Yeah, appreciate it.
And so that's it. And then just as you start moving down, figure out, just keep building the funnel. So then look at cost per SQO. And at the end, you need to decide, like maybe you should actually, at the beginning, you should decide what is an allowable customer acquisition cost. Like a lot of people don't think about it this way, or if they do, they back calculate it into like such a best case model that it doesn't actually make sense. And so, which is pretend 50K ACV product, for sake of round numbers, let's say you're willing to spend $20,000 to get a customer. Okay. And that's less than a 6-month advertising CAC payback. And like the total math in a venture funded company definitely works in that case. I know companies that spend way more to acquire a customer at the same value. So it's cost you $20K. If you win 20% of SQOs, then you know that you can pay $4,000 per SQO. And if 50% of meetings convert to an SQO, you know that you can pay $2,000 per meeting. And so you can work back. A couple other tips that I just thought about, like, is I would start, if you can get those 6 meetings to real deals, whatever you consider real, then I would start to optimize like my mobile web experience.
Yeah, there's some challenges. I didn't even bring that up. I have the IT team working on our website was custom designed, but when I started listening to G on your initial podcast on SEO, I started using those online systems to evaluate speed and mobile, and it's just broken. And so my IT team actually right now is migrating to a new server and upgrading all the code, because it was taking like 12 seconds to load a mobile page. So that just wasn't working. So yeah, and then the next thing is optimizing landing pages. Right now, I don't even have custom landing pages. I'm just directing the paid ads to pages we already had in existence. So I'm kind of inching my way towards a solution, but I don't really see outbound. I've done outbound my whole life, cold calling. And so this product, I couldn't even see outbound working. Like we would just attrit our salespeople. So I only see this as a marketing solution with content.
Yeah, no, it's great. It definitely sounds like you're on the right track. A couple of things that I would definitely look at. The first one is you mentioned it, speed. Like people are not going, especially on a LinkedIn ad, but it definitely happens on Facebook too. People are not going to wait 7 seconds for your page to load. The second thing is sticky header with whatever you want them to do in the top right. So normally that would be request demo. Most companies don't do that on mobile. They'll obviously have it on their desktop site, but then when they collapse it into the smaller screen, they'll collapse that under like a hamburger menu. Get that, figure out how to clear the space. Like I've seen companies do it. It's great. Those are probably the 2. And then obviously messaging and landing page relevance and different things like that.
Sure. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. And so we just walked through that. Thank you, Bob. That was really helpful. It gets me on a couple of different things. Like companies come back to me and complain that they're getting $700 demo requests. And if you literally just do the math, then it's way better than their $50 ebook download. It's way better. Just build out the Excel sheet with the conversion rates from your existing historical trailing 12 months of data, and build out the conversion rates, and then see how many ebook downloads you need to match your 100 demo requests in order to get the same amount of revenue or SQOs. It's like not even close. And so when people measure on cost per lead, it's just a terrible metric in my view, because in order to drive that down, you're going to drive the quality down. Cool. That was fun.
Well, to build on that, I think we have a great question from George, and then also from Nuam, and I think this speaks to it a little bit. Chris, how are the conversations going with regards to explaining that if you do the work and set the demand gen up correctly, the leads will be better qualified and convert at a higher rate? So it's like, and this is something that we sometimes have challenges with our customers of, as we're ramping up the approach, making sure that people have patience, the right expectations to wait for the right results. How can you jam on that a little bit? Build on what you were just saying. I think it's really related.
There's no need for me to try and use my opinion to convince someone of this. Their data is in Salesforce. I literally just pull it out and present it to them. And I just show, it's like, okay, this is the place where we want people to convert. They fill out a demo request on the website, and we didn't use paid to force them through it. And here's where they are. Okay. And then it looks, they convert to SALs at whatever, 65%, and their SQOs at 34% of total leads or whatever. And over here we have the ebooks. They convert to SQOs at 1%, and then we win 10% of those. And so that's the data is there. It's just figuring out how to surface it and then present it in a way where they understand it. I've done 20 companies this year. This is not one company versus another. This is how buyers buy. This is how B2B buyers buy. This is human behavior. And so if you looked at that, you would surface the exact same insight that I've seen at 20 companies in a row.
Super detailed question from Nuam. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Just want to just in general, like trying for me to use my opinion or you or whoever to convince someone that doesn't believe in it is just usually, I mean, in my experience, has never worked. And so that's the way that I've found to do it. And then secondarily, like we talked about with the how sales can work better with marketing. If you align on a later stage funnel metric, you won't even notice the difference during the transition, because you could, like, there are companies where they could literally, they're spending $100,000 a month and they could literally shut it off and they would get the same amount of SQOs. It's true, because the advertising is not doing anything. And they have an organic flow of people based on the word of mouth channels that I talked about, and they just don't recognize it. And so, yeah.
I think something else, like even if you do the math and you show them the math, sometimes there's organizational constraints or realities that force them to still, like, I have 20 SDRs, and if I don't give them leads, what are they going to do? Right. So there's a lot of realities like that can be challenging to work through. And so I think that's another component of it. So sometimes if they're harping on, I just want more leads, trying to probe a little bit and understand where that's coming from. And if there are other organizational constraints or realities, and trying to maybe find an alternative solution to that instead of just pumping them more bad leads to give to their SDR team, right? That's just one example, but yep. I think that's another way to look at it and try to dig deeper to understand where the objection or the concern is coming from.
Yeah, it's fascinating. If you all haven't, I would highly encourage you to go on Amazon and buy Tom Goodwin's book called Digital Darwinism. I think it was several years ago minimum that he published it. I'm trying to get him on the podcast, but he's tough to reach, actually. But his book was super insightful to me. One of the best books that I've ever read, because it spells out why companies can't change. It spells out that exact thing in a ton of different examples over the past 500 years about when companies, as they grow, they build artificial constraints that force them not to change without breaking whatever exists right now. And most companies don't want to break it because there's a short-term pain. And so the alternative is to almost build a secondary thing at the same time, but then it takes more resources and your acquisition cost goes up and your profit or whatever, either your profit goes down or your net loss goes down even further, which is probably more likely. And so they don't do it because they're trying to maximize that profit in the short term, and companies like Barnes and Noble get run over. So book recommendation for those maybe I'll drop every once in a while.
I think we should bring Nuam on for her question, because I think it is related to a lot of the things we've been talking about, and it's a good,
I love
meaty
seeing
question.
the familiar faces. This is
I know.
awesome.
I'm not going to read this, so you're going to have to ask it yourself, Nuam.
Oh.
It looks like it almost looks as long as Tom Goodwin's book. Holy cow.
Detail oriented. Okay, my question really is about the sales pipeline. We use Hubspot, and so I think the out of the box, once you get started with it, is you separate the pipelines via outbound and inbound, and then of course you can add your own. And we've been running with that, and I found that we've been doing this for over 12 months. Guys seem to, every sales meeting, just talk about their outbound deals. They're not keeping the deals up to date, all that kind of stuff that you'd expect when there's not too much alignment. That's happening, and then now we're starting to separate the teams out between enterprise, small business sales, and then just directly to the individuals. And I'm starting to think, should we be changing the pipelines to customer type versus whether they're inbound, outbound, referral. And then I was saying in here, the forecasts, the deal cycles are very different. The content is also then different. The pipeline forecast is also skewed because individuals might be worth 2K. SMEs might be worth 15K that year, but then we might land an enterprise deal that's worth 500K. And so, we have our finance manager who's, what numbers should I be looking at and all that kind of stuff. And we're still early on in our stage. So a lot of this stuff is we're kind of testing and seeing how it works with our team. We haven't used this kind of process or technology before. And so, what would you suggest is the way to sort of segment your pipelines?
Can you help me understand what the point of having a different pipeline for these is?
For the customer types or the...
Yeah. Like what? Why are they separate?
Well, I think that originally when we started with the HubSpot, they had the inbound and outbound. And I think the reason for that, again, like you were talking about, is attribution, is to understand, and to measure leads and sales that are coming through, whether it's sales doing their outbound stuff or whether it's inbound being it's just come through to us or it's coming through the web. And so that made sense in the beginning. But now that we have different audiences completely, I feel it's difficult, and we're trying to drive, the right kind of behavior within the team and cohesion and things like that. And the sales pipelines don't seem to, I seem to be having some issues with it.
Yeah. So you can slice it however I want. This is going to be a technical answer, but what I would do is I would use properties to distinguish these things, not pipelines, and then I would have them all in the same pipeline. And so there would be a tag on the deal that says this is an enterprise deal, and it would be a required field, and the sales rep would be responsible for entering it when they created it, or they wouldn't create the deal. And on inbound, outbound, referral, I would have that automatically populated based on in a workflow with certain data in order to trigger it. So if they fill out a demo request, if they fill out this, if they're, responded to this, and then the deal gets created, whatever that automation flow is, and I would tag them automatically so it's objective. And then I would have them all in the same pipeline. The second piece of this is sales reps are going to take the path of least resistance to hitting their quota. And so if their ability to hit their goals is easier and faster with inbound leads versus outbound leads, then they're going to go that direction. And so I did this before. Like in 2016, I knew that the people that I was sending them had literally wanted to buy something and had and came inbound and were ready. And they were, driving around, like trying to show up at hospitals and see if someone wanted to talk to them. And so I knew that the leads were better. And even then, because they had been brainwashed by, before I had gotten there, all the webinar leads that got sent to them and all the trade show leads that never answered them and all these people that sucked and blah, 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 that they thought the stuff I was sending them was all the same junk. And so they didn't take them seriously. What you need to do is you need to find a couple success stories. So there was 40 reps that I was going on. I knew and they were territorized. So I didn't have a choice of who I was sending them to. And so when I knew that the guy in Louisiana, Jared, shout out to Jared Dansberg. I knew when I sent him a lead that he was going to follow up and he was going to close it. If my lead was good, I knew that he was going to take care of business. And so for the period during the 90-day sales cycle we went through, when I was sending whatever it was, 30, 50 good leads a month for 50 to 250K ARR deals, it was tough to get some people to respond. And then when Jared closed a deal that should have taken him 270 days to close, and he closed it in 45 days, and it was a $100,000 deal, and he was the best performing rep in Q3 of 2017 or whatever it was. And we published that to when the VP of sales sent that out, celebrating his win that helped us get over quota and how he did it and blah, 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 blah. And then he was talking about chatter. You need to build someone internally that can prove the success. And then once you do that, the people understand that it's a different game now. But the first thing is taking a hard look. Is it them not taking it seriously, or are they really not as good? But okay. Yeah, so that's what I would do. But basically, you have to reverse engineer what's important to them, and then help someone get the success that can happen. And then over time, I don't know how many reps you have or different things like that. It might be easier. Mine was 40 and they were field sales. So it was actually quite difficult to get everyone on the same page. But that's how I would do it. Mm-hmm. Any follow-ups?
No, just our team is pretty small. There's only 8. Mm-hmm. They are geographic based as well. So again, they just, whatever comes through that state goes to that person. Mm-hmm. And we've only just kind of separated them out to, focus on the different customer types. So mm-hmm. they're sort of learning that behavior, but it's all very new.
How many do you get a month?
So our inbound is really low. Mm-hmm. It's probably, if I look at the weeks, we're probably getting about 8 a week.
Okay, so that's 32. So if they are really good, you should be winning them at 3 to 10% at minimum. And so out of those, you should win at least one. And so it shouldn't take you that long to get the success story if they're truly good.
Yeah.
The second thing, and this is kind of I wouldn't recommend it to everyone, but I've done it before, is I would get someone to agree to an SLA. And if the SLA doesn't get hit, then it goes to somebody else. And we when the company that I worked for realized that the leads that I was sending them were closing to customers at 15 or 17%. They were like, if you're not following up with that thing in an hour, we're going to send it to somebody else. And somebody else can go and get revenue in your territory because you can't do it. And that's one way. It's sort of chicken and the egg, right? Because before the company will take it seriously and set the SLA, you need to have the success story, and you can't get the success story until people follow up. And so, but the SLA is a really interesting one.
I've thought of that as well, and looked up all the a lot of articles about if you don't call back within the hour, what happens to that lead? And I can just see it. I'm watching all the deals, mm-hmm. and it's a cat and mouse race all the time if they don't pick up the phone within that hour. So even 5 minutes. And the problem I have is sometimes they leave it till the next day completely, mm-hmm. 24 hours later, and the response from the person is, "Oh, we've gone with somebody else."
Yeah,
Sorry.
I want to, this is kind of out of left field and it's not really relevant to you, Nuon, but I appreciate your question, but I'm going to kind of go in a different direction. The thing that sparked my thought here, and I'm going to tell the whole story, is the idea of following up fast and doing things that are buyer-centric in your sales process. But let's rewind the whole story. And so 3 months ago, probably, I was shouting out this company called Rippling. They make a HR product that's super differentiated. They just raised $200 million there. I used to like their marketing more 3 months ago than I do now. I actually think they've moved more to like a traditional spectrum with gated content and different stuff like that. But let me tell you about the journey. So I saw a couple of their ads on Instagram, thought they were great, screenshot them, sent them to my team, said we should think about doing creative like this. And then it was on LinkedIn and I saw a gated case study. And so I downloaded the case study just to see what they were doing. And so I downloaded the case study. It was a shitty one pager on LinkedIn. An SDR called me afterwards. I didn't want to hear from them. I told them I wasn't interested. And then I went back and got a ton of different ads on LinkedIn and Instagram and continued to shout them out to both my customers and on the podcast and different things like that. I would park my car when I went to the gym and there was an out of home ad, like a billboard thing that I would see all the time. It was right next to where I would park. I saw it all the time. And then one day I was just trying to set up a new employee with health insurance and realized how stupid and cumbersome it was with the system I'm using right now. And I said, I think it's time to buy Rippling. And then what did I do? I went to the website. I asked for a demo. The SDR called me within 5 minutes, set up a demo for the same day, which is incredibly rare. I request a demo the same day almost every time, and almost no company does it. They had a demo on the books in 2 hours. The rep gave us a demo. Every decision maker was there. We got the proposal and we're going to sign it. So where's the attribution on that one? The first question is, where does the attribution belong? They're probably going to give credit to the case study on LinkedIn. That's first touch attribution, which is hilarious. And then the second one is they did brand like it. I hope that they don't care about attribution based on how they're marketing. Like that was a when you realize that you need us, you're going to buy us. And that's what everyone should be thinking about in their marketing. Not about how do I get you to buy today, but how do I know that I will be your choice when you realize it? Obviously, you're trying to get people to buy, like let's not sugarcoat it. But acknowledging that not everyone's going to have such an excruciating pain like my health insurance every single day. Not everyone's going through that issue every day. And then the last one is just being buyer-centric in your sales process. It's super rare that I get a call from an SDR when I submit a demo request within 5 minutes. Super rare, which just blows my mind. You spend all that money and time trying to get me to submit a demo request, and then you don't follow up. And then I'm ready, and then I'm truly ready to buy. And I asked for a demo, and you schedule it for next Thursday, and it's 10 days from now, and I've already forgotten about your stuff, or I've bought your competitor's product. Like, it's just like, I don't know if I'm different than everyone else. Like, it'd be interesting to do a poll here, but like, when I want something, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm not window shopping here. So those are some ideas. Good to see you, Nuam. Appreciate the question. Where do we go from here? You're on mute, Megan.
I'm muted. Sorry about that. I'm back. Uma and Dan both brought up an interesting question that I think you and I might have very different perspectives on. So this could be fun.
Can't wait.
Winning back prior lost customers. How do you do that? What are some tactics to get that done? And so like, I know from a customer success angle, sort of how I handle win backs, but I'd be curious from like a marketing perspective, if there's another angle there. So I'll just give you sort of my win back playbook. The first thing I believe in is whenever you are breaking up with a customer or the customer is leaving, you have to, end the relationship on good terms. Otherwise they're,
never coming back, and they're going to be a detractor to anyone in the word of mouth that we talked about before.
Exactly. And so, I'm sure we've all been through a breakup in our lives. And it just needs to be handled, properly with respect. It means, don't hold people hostage into a contract. Don't make it really difficult to cancel, be really amicable and show up and make the transition really smooth. It may seem counter, but go above and beyond so that their offboarding is easy. I also like to ask for feedback during offboarding to really make the customer feel like, we're upset that this happened and I want to know why, because I want to get better. And leave the door open for the future. Say, hey, like, I know it's not a good fit right now, but let's touch base in 3 to 6 months. You know, would it be okay if I reached out just to see how things are going with you? And if, you know, your new solution, your new provider is working well for you. So I think, you know, break up nicely, make it easy. Everything that happens when you end that relationship matters a lot. If it's not amicable, you are not, no matter what happens, you're not going to win them back. So that's a big one for me. I think the other thing is, so when I've done this most effectively and I say, great, can I follow up in 3 to 6 months? Then you actually need to follow up in 3 to 6 months. And so it's the follow through that really does matter. And I have won a lot of customers back over the course of my tenure, but it's only been when all of those things happen. Then when you follow up, it's not like, hey, do you want to come back now? It's literally just checking in. The best, the ideal situation is that you've actually taken meaningful feedback that they've provided. You've actioned on it, incorporated it into your process, into your product, into your service. And you can actually say, hey, just wanted to check in. How are things going? And by the way, that feedback that you gave me was spot on. And we made this change as a result of it. So thank you for that. And again, like, you're usually not going to win them back on that first touch point, but leave the door open to follow up again in the future, or let them know that they can reach back out to you if anything changes on their end. And so that's my formula when it's actually worked successfully. But I don't know, from like a marketing, that's very customer success driven, but from a marketing angle, is there a way to think about how you market to past customers? I never actually went there in my head. So I'm curious what you think.
I think we're thinking about it in the same lens. The first one that I'm going to ask is, you should look and say, do I even want them back? Like, I really, like, why did they leave? Were they not the right fit? Did we learn something that we didn't know? Mm-hmm. Was our main point of contact an asshole? Like, what was it? And so the first decision is, do you want them back or not? You don't, like, a lot of companies think they need every customer. Like, a lot of customers are net negative because they kill morale of your team. They're a huge drain to CS resources. They're calling your support line all the time, and they pay you $100 a month. And so that's one, not necessarily the most customer centric thing to say, but I actually do think it's customer centric to tell someone that they're not the right fit. Definitely. That, you know, you have to make that decision. In addition to that, like, this is just nobody like follow this advice, but I'm just going to like tell you how I see it, which is that, like, I'm not chasing people around to come back. Like, I said, I speak through action. Like, if you left because you didn't think you were getting ROI, then go somewhere else and realize that the grass is greener on the other side. And I'll be over here producing the podcast, growing the business, growing all the businesses that we work for, marketing super well. And my actions will speak. And at some point, if you realize that you made the wrong choice, then you can come back. And maybe that's not, like I said, the most politically correct way to say it, but I do think that's the truth. Like, it's kind of like exactly what Megan said. If the person was like, you don't have this integration, I need it because blah, 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 we use Salesforce and it's not going to work, and your competitor over here has it, then you decide whether or not it's worth it to build that integration. And if it is, then you speak through your actions. And then over time you have 7 more that your competitor doesn't have, or whatever it is.
What I'll say though, I agree with you, but what I will say also, like, a lot of times people will move from one company to another and be in a completely different business, right? And other times there are really good reasons why it's not a good fit. So I don't disagree with what you said, but I think there is also something to be said for knowing, like, okay, this person at this company at this time wasn't a good fit customer for me, but who knows if they move to a different company in a different context where we would actually be good. So it's just, you never know. Yeah. You never know where how things will play out. So, you know, never burn a bridge, and
Absolutely.
leave things as amicably as possible, because you never know. Life is funny sometimes.
It was one of my best performing comments on LinkedIn ever, which was that somebody was like, you know, we're getting a bunch of demo requests. What do we do with the ones that we literally just don't want to talk to? Like, they're less than 20 people or blah, 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 blah. Like, should we just like throw them out and not respond? Should we send them a automated thing with a 5-minute video? Should we actually have our sales reps do it? Blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't too long ago when I worked at the 20-person company, and I was trying to explore things like ABM software and multi-touch attribution software. And the vendors were like, you're 20 people. We don't want to talk to you. And they actually just completely ignored me. And now 2 years later, like if you actually play the cards out and you think long-term, it probably would have been good for them had I used their product for 2 years, given the amount of influence that I have at this point. Like, we drive buying decisions for hundreds of B2B SaaS companies now. I'm not telling people what to do. I'm just telling people what we use and how it works, which influences people's decisions. And most people just don't think that way. They're like, oh, this person's at a 20-person company where they're not going to be able to afford the $3,000 MRR for us right now. Let's just forget about them and ignore them. And I like literally was interested. And we could have afforded it. I owned the budget. It was in the budget, but they didn't want to talk to me. And so I think that just goes back to the core thesis of just thinking long-term, because that person can move or can evolve in their career or can go to a different company and influence a much larger purchase or whatever it is. Got some good questions in here.
Yeah. Do you see one?
I see one, but you go ahead.
I was going to say, Alex has a career question. And since we've been celebrating jobs, why don't we bring him on? And I think this is a good one for you, Chris. Alex Bramos.
Hey, everyone.
Alex, you're back. Week 2.
Toronto. So I'm asking for a friend officially. 4 years demand gen, started in SMB SaaS. So we're talking like 6 to 10K ACVs. That's where I started. I saw it flip from 100% outbound, full cycle AEs to 70% inbound. And then I transparently probably left prematurely because I thought I knew everything. But I went through that growth, and it was really cool. That dopamine hit of short sales cycle, lead to close deal, like it's great. Move to enterprise SaaS, super long sales cycles, almost all outbound at the moment. Pretty strong sales culture in place. So you're joining that culture and you're trying to implement new things. And there's a lot of, call it marketing debt related to that environment. And there's a new environment that opened up for said friend where Series D, 500 employees, 50 marketers, 6 growth marketers. They just hired.
Did you just say 50 marketers?
50 marketers.
What in the world is going on over there? 10% of employees are marketing at a 500-person company? That is crazy.
So
okay.
I'm told 73% of close won opportunities are sourced from marketing channels.
Okay.
That's what I was told.
Okay.
6 growth marketers, and this position would be part of that growth team. They just hired a VP of corporate development. So if anybody who works in SaaS knows, that's a huge signal that at Series D, you're either acquiring more or you're IPOing or you're doing something. But the opportunity is a lateral move in terms of responsibility. And so I haven't even seen what comp would look like, but it seems like definitely from a responsibility perspective, it's a lateral move. The director explained to me that at this point, you should optimize for your rate of learning. So I'm 4 years into demand gen. What are your thoughts on that? It's SMB SaaS, so it's going back, I would say, to something I'm comfortable with. But yeah, what do you think?
We got a lot to cover here.
Yeah,
I like it. So the first place that I'll start is like, I'm sure that there are companies out there that sell enterprise deals that have, good marketing teams, but that's just not where I'm playing. Like, we don't have a customer that sells a 500K ARR ASP for a reason, because they love to go outbound and do transactional marketing. And so I just don't chase them. I think a good space for you to consider, and this is just kind of a note for everyone, is like if you really know how to do demand gen, mid-market SaaS is the place to be. I think it really is the place where performance marketing kind of hits its toll when you're in a 60-day sales cycle. Like performance marketing is going to fall out of the bottom because it's just not how that type of buying process happens. And so it really can separate you out. I don't spend a ton of time in SMB, mainly because it's ultra performance driven. And there are markets where the performance can really work. Like I've had companies that come in and blah, 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 5x their inbound revenue over a 6-month period of time. And it feels great. It feels great for everyone when that stuff happens. And so I can see it. When I think about places, I 100% bought into the rate of learning. 100%. I think that's why most people that work here. Like, one, our culture, but two, like the thing that I consistently hear is like, I'm learning so fast. I'm working at 5 companies at once, implementing this new model. I love it, blah, 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 blah. So rate of learning, because the long-term ROI is way better. When I was 26 and making $80,000 a year doing director of demand gen level work and should have gotten paid at least double that, and driving tons of revenue for a company, I stayed a year longer than I wanted to. And it was worth it. It really was. So rate of learning, number one. The way that I would look at this from there is market. Is the market attractive and growing? Product. Is the product really, if they're this far, the product's good. Leaders are three core additional things to look at when you choose a new career path. And then the last thing is like, if you're optimizing for rate of learning, like my concern would be there's 50 demand marketers. What are you going to do? Right? Like the challenge is getting so pigeonholed into something like with 50 people, it's inevitable that you're going to get, unless you're truly leading the team, that you're getting pigeonholed into one channel or one tactic or one content type or one thing like that. And that's not where, I think that's where a lot of growth marketers go to die. And so that's out of all the things you've told me, that's the only, it's not a deal breaker. Definitely not a deal breaker. I don't want to rain on your parade here. So can you be comfortable going in there for minimum 2 years, working a lot, learning a ton, trying to grow within a company that's a Series D, that's 500 employees, that's going on that path? Like, there will be growth opportunities. The question is, are those growth opportunities in the marketing department? And so like, I was at the company that was 300 employees, Series E. And the whole time I was there, the marketing team grew by 1 person. And the whole time that I was there, the sales team grew by 80. And so I was, that's really the difference, right? Like, regardless of how well I performed, there was no opportunity for growth. Meanwhile, there was a lot of mediocre reps getting promoted or getting, compensation bumps on their career trajectory because they had so many and they needed to retain them. And it was so like, that's another thing that I would look at, is like how the team grows overall. Just on paper, man, it feels like a job that you want to take. And so like, it's ultimately like, do what's right for you. I'm just trying to help you think through it.
You are your friend.
Yeah, no, that's of course. I don't know. Like there's a component of like, up until now, everything is self-taught, either learning through osmosis from like always reporting to the CEO, because it's always been Series A companies, right? Consuming content like yours, Chris and Megan. I'm always getting it from outside. And so now the opportunity is I can get that inside while also still getting it outside.
I have a great question for you. What do you want to do long-term?
End of career, it's actually go work in VC and be on the other side. But to do that, I need to go through the motions of being a growth marketer from start to finish to be a credible VC. I don't have a finance background, so I can't do that. You need to be an operator to have done that. And I'm trying to, that's end state. Through marketing, the trade of marketing, of course, CMO, VP marketing, let's get there at the right SaaS company. But end state is certainly early stage VC.
I mean, yeah, like as long as you're in a place where you can learn, the amount, as I continue to work with more and more companies, at once, and it's not like it's the only way. Like there's plenty of ways to do it, right? I do like a very small component for a lot of companies versus a very large component with one company, and so either way can work. But as I continue to work with more and more, the learnings accelerate. As I work with larger and larger companies, I learn new things because the 80 million ARR SaaS company has way different challenges than the $5 million ARR one.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of merit to doing something that's a little bit different than what you had done in the past, purely for the experience. And you get a good exit under your belt and have a couple good key things that you accomplished there. Like you can go and tell that story and get a director of demand gen role at a Series B company and move through that one too. Like, so ultimately your decision, like I said the exact same thing to you last week. It's clear that you know what you're talking about. I think you're going to land somewhere great no matter what. So, yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
Cool, man.
How you feeling, Chris? It's almost 9 o'clock.
I can keep rolling. I feel like this might be the time we set the record, as long as everyone doesn't leave. Is that extra kombucha at like 6 p.m.? Okay.
We have a few questions from Varlene.
Oh yeah, I saw one of those. Let's get it going.
Yeah, maybe let's bring her on because she had a couple of questions.
No, and she's
still here,
yep.
Varlene? You can.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey. Welcome.
Hi.
How's it going? Where are you right now?
I'm from Trinidad.
From where?
Oh, amazing. Trinidad
in the Caribbean.
That's beautiful. I just got my passport stamped today. Or I submitted it because I had to renew it. So I'm looking forward to going somewhere tropical soon.
Yes. Fun times. Although the beaches are closed off, but hopefully you could come in and open back up. But I had a question. Okay, I actually have to go back to it. I had a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm. I have one of them here about organization to generate demand by building personal brand.
Yes. So the president of the company that I work for international promotional agency, an investment promotional agency. So we're responsible for attracting investors to our country. Foreign investors, and also encourage local investors to invest in the non-energy sectors, the creative sectors, manufacturing sectors, and so forth. So he's now seeing the benefit of two things: podcasting, because he wants a wider reach and he wants persons to learn about what we do, and also he's seeing the benefits of getting persons more active on LinkedIn. So he's now looking at me to kind of guide, because I'm the senior marketing person on the team, and our manager. I mean, they're not too versed on social media, online podcasting. I mean, I myself, I just suggested it, and surprisingly, he ran with it and he said yes. Cool. So yeah, just some guidance in terms of, one, the podcasting, what should I do? And in terms of generating demand, do I, share topics every week and say, okay, well, we can post around this? How much of that do I control, or do I just, lay out the structure of what is a good post and then leave persons to do it? The company is small, about 50 persons.
God, I love this one. I love this one. And so the one thing on the podcast that I just want to get in before I forget about it is this is one of the perfect situations of how to create a podcast.
Okay.
And so the, emerging Trinidad investment podcast, whatever it is, the emerging Caribbean investment podcast, and then you can talk about all the different islands, but lean into Trinidad when it makes sense. So you can set the geo however big or small that you want, right? And so if it's just Trinidad, if it's Caribbean, if it's North America, if it's like a town in Trinidad, whatever those things are, and then I would center it around whatever the topic investment would be. So there's two choices here. You center it around the Trinidad investment, or you center it around the target that you're going after, and then talk about whatever they want. I like the Trinidad one better in this instance. So the Trinidad investment podcast. And then I would set it up where like you talk through a successful investment. You talk about how one episode is comparing investments in Trinidad versus, you know, whatever other Turks and Caicos, whatever other island there is around there. I'm not exactly sure on the geography. So
yeah,
you talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
You start to talk about people about why they should invest down in this area versus what, you know, traditional investment in, you know, on the mainland or whatever you want to say. All those different topics.
Okay.
It's a never-ending stream of ideas that you could talk about. You know, how we, you know, invested, how people invested in this hotel and in 10 years sold it at a, you know, 4x return or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's the podcast. I think that your job is to surface the stories, surface the starting points, and then put the bumpers and the infrastructure around for, if the CEO is the person, for them to just do it as easy as possible.
Okay.
So I think that's the thing. And then in terms, like how much of the content creation would you control? That's the extent on the podcast side of what I would control. Like the maximum, I would introduce different ideas. I would potentially choose guests. I would try and have them be a guest on, you know, the other podcasts that are talking about similar things, you know, alternative investments and blah, 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 and try and get them as a guest on that one as like a little PR play. And then I think where it gets more interesting is actually on when the content's published. And so, is your CEO a great writer? Do they like to write? Are they going to invest 20 minutes in order to put something together where the words are meaningful, to go along with the video?
He likes to talk.
Yeah, and so like this is an instance we're really trying to figure this out, because this is a common problem for executives, whether they are not great at writing, whether they don't care to spend the time to write, whether they're you know, embarrassed to post it, whatever those things are. Like we're getting to a place right now where I can have this conversation with you, and then somebody else can paraphrase the things that I say and write the copy for it, and then post it on our LinkedIn company page. I write 100% of the copy on my stuff. I answer all the comments, but for the company page, we're trying to figure that out, because if we can figure it out, then we unlock a big key for all the executives that are struggling to do exactly what you're talking about. And so, you know, ideally they write their own copy, and you can give them some guidance and about how to do it with the spacing, and, you know, how the first sentence is super important, and how the closing bit is important, and how to space it out, and that, you know, listing numbers of the top 5 things to do is a good way to lay it out, or whatever those tips are. Alternatively, if if you just realize they're not going to do it, then if they're okay with it, then you could do it for them.
Okay. And he wants the whole sales team to be on LinkedIn, you know, so he wants me to actually do a training with the sales team to tell them how to post, what to post. So,
And when it gets to that scale, in my opinion, this might not play in corporate world, but in my opinion, people can talk about whatever they want. I think people really misunderstand that if like the salesperson in Trinidad, if I got that right, the salesperson in Trinidad, if they love to surf and they post surfing videos on LinkedIn, that a couple investors probably surf too, and are going to see their video, and then and they're going to like the video, and they're going to find out that they do investments, and they're going to get customers that way. And so like people just don't see it that way. In my view, like I think we empower people to talk about whatever they feel passionate about or whatever they want to post, rather than boxing them into posting our press release.
Okay, understood.
Just to build on that, Varlene, if you're going to do like a training for your sales team to get them ready for LinkedIn, you know, I think some of the basics that I would cover are, you know, break down the profile for them. Like the headshot matters. They have a banner image, which is great real estate. You know, the headline should have what the company does, so that that's really clear for people. They should leverage the about section to talk about maybe a little bit about themselves, but the company, let the profile do the selling. So there's some profile improvements there. Then they have to be connected to the right people. So they could post a lot of content, but if they don't have the right connections, the right people won't see it. So you can recommend some connection strategies on how they can use either, if you have the tool Sales Navigator, they can get connections that way. Otherwise, they can look up hashtags and see what influencers are posting and connect with people that are engaging with that content, right? Then they should be commenting on other people's content. So teach them how to find other interesting content and engage via commenting. Then they should start posting their own content, right? And, text posts play really well. Videos are great too. But, I think that's how I would break down like a training session, sort of profile updates, commenting, connections, and then posting. And you kind of want to tackle it in that order so that the profile's built out, the connections are there, you've started commenting, so that when you start posting, the people you want to see it are seeing it. Then they're looking at your profile and you've updated it and they're seeing the relevant information that you want. And then last tip is on the content. If your profile is selling your company and what you do, the content should really be value add and not too salesy, right? That's the name of the game on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
you just got the playbook.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Chris and Megan.
Cool. Great to have you, Varlene. Thanks for your question. Cool. I'll go as long as people want to hang out here. So let's keep it rolling. You tell me when you're done. When this thing drops below like 15, we'll call it. But I feel good.
All right, hold on. I'm looking at, we might have gotten through.
It's cool. I can go for a little while because there was one more topic on the agenda that we haven't gotten to yet, which was what B2B marketers can learn from B2C. And there's a ton here. But I think one of the most interesting ones is how B2C, specifically direct to consumer e-com, how they understand the economics of the ads that they're running. They know that their subscription revenue is going to be $500 and they need to acquire that customer, and they know they're going to get $200 profit, and they know they have to acquire that customer at less than $200. B2B marketers don't do that. Not really. Not to do it like, I haven't seen, I know that people do it. I'm not going to make a blanket statement, but a majority of people spending media don't think like that in B2B. They think about, did I pay enough to get the lead? Not whether or not it was profitable for the business. So that's one. The idea of how important creative is in ads, like I said, that company Rippling, I will gladly shout them out because their creative is really good and they put it in the right channels and it's formatted well. But there's not a lot of other companies that do it well. The other thing that I respect about Rippling a lot is that the creative has never gotten stale. Every time I log into the feed, there is a Rippling ad that I will see within the first like 3 ads. And because they have so many variations of creative, it gets my attention almost every time. And so I watched Outreach do it in Q2, where I logged into LinkedIn and saw the exact same Outreach ad 700 times. And after the third one, like it's not moving the needle anymore. And so the importance of creative and the importance of the variation of creative, if you're going to do high frequency or high spend advertising on paid social, the idea of doing influencer marketing, which I talked a ton about, I think that you have to do it differently than how people have done, selling gym shorts on Instagram through influencers. But there's a play here. Like I see a world where if you were starting the best new SEO tool, that you would pay Gaetano $10,000 to record an hour-long video using it. Like I see that as a good investment for a lot of people, where you would pay Rand Fiskin to review the product. Like I think those are those are ideas that are smart relative to how companies spend their money right now. So I think influencer marketing will be popular. What else? I think the overall idea of copywriting is really interesting. There was one back in the day, we were selling a complex medical device. And we worked with a company, a branding and messaging agency, that their normal client was like Svedka vodka or Truly, because they were able to distill the message to a place where it was so simple that it was really impactful. And we have a bunch of technical jargon going on in B2B as if it impresses someone. So there's that. I'm trying to pull out one more here. And then the idea, like I have this conversation. It's sad to admit this, but I have it almost every day. I had it this morning. The idea that we haven't, we've never advertised on Facebook up to this point because our CEO thinks it's a personal page. Like, people aren't in business mode when they're there. So why would we ever advertise there? And I was like, wait, you haven't even tried? You're spending $150,000 a month on digital ads and you haven't even tried Facebook. So the idea of just one, being open to it, two, realizing that it doesn't matter whether or not you think the channel is for personal or professional use. If the people are there, then you need to figure out how to use it. And so I think that that being open to other things than Google AdWords and LinkedIn is a place where I think a lot of B2B marketers get stuck purely based on not data backed, unemotional, or emotional rationale from executives. So those are, I think there was 5 tips. And then if Angelica can take this video from the company page for Varlene, she could write out the 5 tips and then post it. Cool. That we hit the whole agenda. It just took us a really long time to get there. Couple more.
Yeah, I'm doing a call out for questions. Now's the time, guys.
Wow,
we got a question from Max.
We're really out of questions. There's a million messages.
Now we got 2 more.
Okay.
Let's bring Max on.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, Max.
I've actually been here the whole time. I was just on the phone. So, yeah, my question is just kind of in terms of copywriting. So, how much emphasis do you put that on, one, yourself, learning more of it, and then 2, when you're hiring? Because I know a lot of the digital ads, yes, you have to know all the tactics, how to target and everything like that, but knowing a good headline hook, all of that stuff, how do you get your guys to kind of work on that?
Yeah, I think this one will be fascinating both for you and for the listeners. Is that I don't make the decision for the audience. I run 20 variations of copy and let them tell me which one works the best. And so with it, we'll literally make 20 variations of an ad, 5 variations of creative, 2 different headlines, 3 different body copies. You do all the permutations, you get somewhere between 20 and 30 different ad variations. And within 2 hours of running the ads, it'll bubble to the top which one performs the best based on whatever objective that you have. And then and so what we do is we have a framework for how you would write copy. And then we just follow the framework and then let the audience decide. So if we're doing a case study, we know its company name achieves X outcome with blah. And then we have another one, which would be outcome achieved with blah, 55% reduction of blah with blah. And so we have framed up ways based on experience of how to frame certain pieces of content in certain channels. And then an example would be if we were doing a case study, the headline copy would be what I just told you. The actual body copy that's technically less important. If you look at the order of importance, creative, then headline, then body copy. In the body copy, it would be, I would literally copy and paste a stat or something interesting from the written content. So we don't have to rewrite it. And so, the organization was going from 7 days to 7 minutes and getting this done. Or there was 850 patients enrolled in this study. It was conducted in 5 emergency departments throughout the southeastern United States. Just like a little fact that you can pull in. A quote works good in the body copy as well. Everything has been so much better since blah, from the CMO of Google. And so over time, if you just start testing the different variations, you'll see which ones work. You'll have like 3 or 4 core plays, and then you use those 3 or 4 core plays, but you always let the audience decide the final version. And so it's an interesting thing because the copy is important, but we structured our process in a way where it doesn't hold us up.
Right.
A lot of companies will spend 3 weeks figuring out what the headline is and then run the one headline without even knowing whether or not it would work better than other ones. Yeah. Got a follow up? That was a good question. I've never talked about that before.
No, it's just, I'm just kind of diving into that more too, like a lot of writing, which I have been, but I haven't, I was at an agency prior to this, but yeah, just kind of getting more into the direct response and just like reading all the books. So just curious on that.
Cool, man. Good question. Good to see you again.
Yep. Thank you.
I saw you're thinking about starting your podcast. So my vote is go for it. Do it. I thought your idea was great. 2 more questions that I think are good.
Okay. 2 more. We'll set the cutoff. So all the people that have made it this far, you might as well stay a little longer, but we'll cut it off because I see the 2 questions and we'll get to these 2.
All right. Which one do you want to go for? Which one do you use first?
Whichever.
I like this meeting one from Jonathan. How would you optimize a weekly meeting between members of an AE sales team or marketing team? I have a couple thoughts on this, but you want to take a crack at it first, Chris? I'm happy to jump in.
I mean, you can jump in. My thoughts are going to be, I think really interesting is like I would challenge whether or not you need that meeting, at least on a weekly basis. Like it depends on what size the company is at. But like we work with Series A companies and we have a weekly meeting and there's no AEs in that meeting. It's marketing, sales leadership. Because honestly, like, and I have empathy for the AE, and I know that the AE wouldn't get value out of being in that meeting. They would rather be doing something else. Do I think that there are ways to make that meeting more valuable to them? Yes. Do I think that a weekly meeting would be the right cadence? Probably not. And it's really interesting to think about the root of this question. And I'm going to assume, but like people that are listening can think about the root of this question if they were going to ask it. And the root of the question for a lot of people is, how do I get my teams aligned would be one of the outcomes. The other one would be, how do I get my teams to just talk to one another? And there might be a different way than a meeting in order to achieve that outcome. So I guess not really sure I answered your question, but mine would push back to challenge whether or not you need that meeting.
I think you bring up some good points. I was going to mention the frequency. I think sometimes, I think that the ultimate outcome would be creating trust and comfort for them to just have organic conversations on a regular basis. But sometimes if that's not happening naturally, bringing people together and sort of manufacturing the common ground and jumpstarting it can be really helpful. And so if I were to architect a meeting like this, I don't think I would have it weekly either. And ideally you have it for a period of time to build trust and move on. But I think it's like sharing success stories, having each side share a day in the life in their shoes to build empathy. So I think it really comes down to like, you want each side to really understand the other. You want them to have an opportunity to get to know each other, to build trust. And if you can create that level of empathy and trust, like the organic interaction that you're desiring will happen. So if it's not happening normally, I think I would engage in those types of exercises or meetings to jumpstart that. And then there could be value in having some frequency of feedback. Hey, this is what I'm hearing from prospects. Here's some feedback on this. But whether that's quarterly or otherwise. So just a couple things to add.
We can get to that last one. I had my dog in the background here for a moment.
Or that the lookalike audiences.
Yeah, let's get into this one. So Elaine, we have tested this. I've been honestly testing this since 2016. The first time I tested it was a really interesting use case, where we were going after Brazil, and the stuff was in Portuguese, and there wasn't any clear job title targeting to get to physicians there. And so what I did was I ran an ad that was so uninteresting to the normal person that only physicians or people that were interested would have clicked on it. And then I built a lookalike audience off of the 1,000 website visitors that I generated through that ad, and actually had success. The ads were so cheap at that time in that country that it didn't matter about the inefficiencies. But the key on the lookalike audience on Facebook, to be specific, is that it creates an audience of minimum 1% of the overall population that has an active Facebook account. And so if you're selling B2B to blah, blah, blah companies and your TAM is 5,000 accounts, will make it more real, 5,000 accounts, and there's 10 people in each of those accounts that you want to hit, for instance, and your real audience is 50,000. And the audience that Facebook just built you was 2.2 million. And so there's a lot of waste created in that process is the main reason that I don't do it that way. Do we test it? Yes. Does it work sometimes when we measure it against view through or click through demo conversions? Yes. But overall, the cost per demo is higher. And so I typically don't do that. What I would recommend, and it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish, but we've been using metadata. I'm comfortable shouting them out. We get way better targeting than anyone else that you can get on native targeting because we use that tool. Our Facebook executions would be nowhere near as effective and nowhere near as cost effective if we didn't have it. And Jason, if you're listening to this, you can clip that or do whatever you want, because that was a good shout out. And then I'll use those different audiences. The thing that I'll do instead, which I think is what people should want to do, is install the Facebook pixel on your website. Make sure that it's turned on for every ad that you run. Make sure that it's tracking custom form conversions, like the submission of a demo request or the view of the demo page if you're selling SaaS, or whatever your high conversion points are. This is mainly for B2B companies that don't have a product-led strategy, where it actually has to go through a sales rep, through a demo or form like that. And over time, as you feed the pixel data, Facebook knows that I clicked on that ad, and then I went through and I looked at different things and I looked to this page, and they know that stuff. And then they go and if you're in the ad set for the audience, you can go and turn on enable audience expansion, which is a native function inside of Facebook. You can do that with custom audiences or native detailed targeting audiences. Turn on audience expansion. I find that you need the pixel to have quite a bit of data, or it's going to start to send it's going to go very broad, and it'll optimize to lower the cost per click, but not necessarily the right people. But over time, it's going to introduce new people into the stream of content that are not in your native audience. And that's how I get the quote unquote scale, the expansion of audiences without using lookalikes, that I just find to be higher performing. I know, because I work with enough SaaS businesses, that I know when my customers, I know what my customers' competitors do, because I'll go on to my customer's webpage, and then the next time I log in Instagram, I'm getting hit with their competitor's Instagram story ad. And if you don't think that Facebook knows that I went to this page who's a competitor of the company that's trying to advertise to me, and then didn't decide algorithmically to put that ad in front of me right after that, that's what it's doing. And so like the idea that you need Bambora for intent, like I think Facebook's doing a lot of it on their own. By the way, just for the record, complete assumption, but like that happens a lot. Like I'll go on my desk. Did it this morning. It was raining outside. I didn't have a rain jacket. Went online on my desktop computer, searched rain jackets, went on there, looked at a couple, didn't buy anything, went back on Instagram, rain jacket, rain jacket, rain jacket, rain jacket. It knows. And it's not any different when you're selling financial software or this, project management software or different other things. Like the algorithm's smart. And that was a very long-winded way of saying, can you do them? Yes. Do they work sometimes? Yes. Do I find that they're typically pretty inefficient for small TAM B2B? When I say small, it's like, less than 100,000 people that are relevant typically. I find there's a lot of waste. And so my recommendation instead would be either custom audiences and metadata, detailed targeting, and then turn on algorithm expansion once you have the pixel in place. And the pixel has probably thousands of clicks already on it. Did I put people to sleep for that last one? Come on now. No.
No.
No way.
We got some like G2 level testimonials in the chat. This
Okay.
was so insightful as always. Thanks, Chris. Awesome advice. I loved it. So everyone's
Cool.
good.
Well, thanks everyone. I feel like we're breaking records all the time here. So first off, appreciate all of you staying here. We literally went, I kind of want to just drag out this closing so we can say we did it for 2 hours. But like, really appreciate you all, sticking around. I think the format worked really well tonight.
Good questions tonight too.
Yeah,
Really good questions.
The questions were really good. I think the topics were interesting, had a lot of participation. Really appreciate it. Had a couple several people that have been on here for months got new, better jobs today, new and or better, which is awesome. Let's celebrate that. And that was a great moment for everyone. I saw the chat with like all the hand raises and claps and congrats, which is awesome. And so, yeah, really appreciate you all being here. It's been fun, and I hope to see you again next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Take
everyone.
care. Have a
good
week.
night.
See you soon.